My 2 years with a secretive cheater. Red flags I ignored until it was too late. Chapter 1. The first spark of doubt. I'm Anton, 26 years old, and I've spent the last 2 years trying to convince myself that I wasn't imagining my girlfriend's suspicious behavior. Let's call her Avery. She was scorching hot, the kind of woman who turned heads in every room. But behind that smouldering exterior, I always sensed something off. There was a nagging feeling in my gut that I tried to ignore, convincing myself I was just jealous or paranoid. We met at a bar on a humid summer night. I was unwinding after a long week of work, nursing a beer and absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone, when Avery strolled in with her friends. Her hair was dark and glossy, and she had on a tight, fitting dress that accentuated every curve. She caught me looking, and instead of rolling her eyes as many women would, she shot me a playful smile. My heart thumped so loudly I swore the bartender could hear. The first conversation flowed easily. I offered to buy her a drink. She accepted, and we ended up talking about everything from our favorite Netflix shows to her love for painting. She seemed warm, sweet, genuine. By the end of that night, we'd exchanged numbers. I fell asleep with an uncharacteristic giddiness, believing I'd stumbled onto something special. We started dating soon after. In the early months, it was pure intensity. Late night drives, dinners at trendy restaurants, spontaneous weekend getaways. She'd dress in these bold outfits that left me breathless. She'd also shower me with affection. Random compliments, flirty messages. I told myself I was lucky to have such a vivacious woman by my side. Yet from the start, there were little oddities. She'd get cagey about her phone, flipping it face down on tables. Or she'd vanish for hours without explanation, then come back with vague stories. I dismissed these as quirks. She's independent. She has her own life, I'd reason. But somewhere deep, a seed of doubt was planted. Chapter 2, Hints of Secrets. As the relationship progressed, I couldn't ignore how private Avery was about her texts and social media. Most couples I knew scrolled each other's memes, or at least occasionally used one another's phones to snap a selfie. But Avery guarded hers like a vault. If I so much as reached for it to change a song during a car ride, she'd tense up. "Why are you so protective? Do you have shady stuff on there?" I'd joke, half meaning it. She'd laugh it off, saying, "I just don't like people touching my phone." Or, "I have personal banking info." Something in her tone told me that was an excuse. But I tried to believe her. The first major red flag popped up about 3 months into our relationship, when I came across a suspicious snippet on her phone. She'd left it on the couch for a split second while she went to the bathroom. A notification banner slid down from some dating app. My heart leapt. I picked it up, but within a second it disappeared. Feeling guilty, I set it back, not wanting to snoop. When she returned, I must have been acting nervous, because she eyed me with suspicion. "Everything okay?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. I just nodded, heart pounding, saying nothing. Looking back, I realized I was afraid she'd accuse me of mistrust. Later, I tried to bring it up gently. Something like, "You ever use dating apps? Are any still on your phone?" She denied it, claiming he deleted them all months ago, babe. That was that. I let it slide, telling myself she was probably telling the truth. Meanwhile, the doubt gnawed deeper. Chapter 3, My First Scare. A few months later, something more alarming happened. I developed an odd rash, nothing too severe, but enough to freak me out. I'd never had an STD test before, but I realized I needed to be safe. Avery and I were sexually active, sometimes unprotected, though not always. My mind raced. Could she be messing around? But that was my paranoid voice talking, right? I went to the clinic, feeling anxious. The test returned negative for everything, which relieved me. I told Avery about it casually, saying I was just being cautious. She looked almost startled, but quickly gave me a reassuring hug, telling me it was good I was being responsible. Yet that fleeting alarm in her eyes stayed with me, like she was scared I might discover something more. But again, I shrugged it off. Perhaps it was just my imagination. Not long after, she got diagnosed with bacterial vaginosis, AV, a couple times. She complained about discomfort, visited her ob-gyn. I asked if something in our sex life caused it. She insisted it was just an imbalance. No big deal. But I recall once or twice we hadn't had unprotected sex for a while. So how did it come about? My knowledge of BV wasn't vast, but I knew it could result from multiple sexual partners or general changes in flora. That suspicion reared its head again, but whenever I voiced even a hint of concern, she'd get defensive, telling me I was being controlling. Chapter 4. She dressed to impress. But for whom? Around this time, Avery started dressing more and more provocatively, especially for mundane errands or appointments. Once, she said she was off to see her therapist, wearing a low, cut top and a miniskirt so short it could pass for a bell. I asked, half joking, "Ooh, you trying to seduce your therapist?" She just laughed, brushing me off. But I noticed this pattern. Whenever she had an appointment or went out with friends, without me, she'd put significant effort into her appearance. Then there was that bizarre incident with her period. She'd left the house looking glammed up, supposedly heading to see someone for mental health reasons. She came back later than expected, looking disheveled. The next day, she commented that her period started abruptly during that outing, which sometimes can be triggered by intercourse or other physical activity. My mind screamed, she must have done something sexual. But I suppressed the thought, not wanting to confront the ugly possibility that she was cheating. I told myself, maybe stress messed up her cycle, and yet my gut twisted every time she left in skimpy outfits. I tried to rationalize as, some people just like dressing sexy, right? But deep inside, I suspected she wasn't doing it for me. Chapter 5, The Dating App's Discovery. Halfway through our 2-year relationship, I stumbled upon more concrete evidence. We were relaxing on the couch, watching a show, and her phone chimed with notifications. She got up to grab a drink, leaving her phone on the coffee table. I glanced over. Lo and behold, an icon of a dating app glowed in her notifications bar. My heart pounded. She'd explicitly said she didn't use them anymore. So I picked it up, mind racing. Could I see what was inside before she returned? As soon as I unlocked it, she appeared, snatching it from my hand, eyes furious. "What are you doing?" She snapped, pulling the phone close. I stammered. I saw a dating app notification. "Why do you have that app?" She huffed, opening it in front of me. There was nothing in her inbox, no matches, no conversation logs. She claimed she installed it out of curiosity, or that she forgot to uninstall it. "I never used it," she insisted. "Look, there's nothing here." She pressed the empty screen in my face, as if to prove her innocence. But I realized she could have deleted everything moments earlier. We fought. I demanded to know why she lied about not having any dating apps. She turned it around, accusing me of invading her privacy by looking at her phone. I felt guilt, tripped, so I backed off. She ended the argument with, "Believe whatever you want. I told you there's nothing. If you can't trust me, that's your issue." I felt defeated, though deep down, my suspicion roared. But I was too scared of conflict to push further. I remember texting a friend later, asking, "Am I crazy?" She said, "No, your gut's telling you something. Don't ignore it." I tried to bury it anyway. Chapter 6, My Anxiety and Her Therapist. Visits. Avery frequently mentioned going to therapy sessions. She said she had childhood trauma, needed professional help. I supported that wholeheartedly at first, but the outfits she chose for those therapy visits made me uneasy. Tight jeans, low, cut blouses or short skirts. Also, the sessions often extended longer than typical therapy hours. She'd come home late, sometimes reeking of cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked, she scoffed, "You're imagining it." Or, "My therapist's office is near a bar." Maybe I brushed against someone. It sounded ludicrous, but I had no proof she was lying. One afternoon, I realized she was seeing this called therapist twice a week. That's quite frequent, but not impossible if she had serious mental health concerns. I was about to offer to help cover costs if she needed. But she never let me see the billing or gave me the name of this therapist. She said it was personal. My internal alarm screamed. But every time I tried to probe, she'd blow up, saying I was controlling her mental health care. So I stayed quiet, which I regret deeply. Chapter 7, the final straw. Her phone's secrecy in our second year together, the tension built. We argued more about her odd comings and goings. She'd snap. I'm an adult. I can do what I want. I'd retort. Yes. But you vanish without explanation. Come back with your clothes dishevelled. How do you think that makes me feel? She'd roll her eyes or pick a fight about my lack of trust. Then she mentioned how I was lucky. She stayed with me at all. Ouch. One evening, I reached for her phone, harmlessly trying to check a notification that popped up while she was in the kitchen. She dashed in, grabbing it away, face dark with anger. "Don't ever touch my phone," she spat. I asked, "Why so secret? Are you hiding something?" She scowled. "I have private banking info. None of your business." That's when I realized she would never let me see what was truly in there. She'd always have an excuse. My friend's words echoed, "If your gut feels weird, it's right." That night, we had a blow-out fight. I threatened to walk away if she couldn't show me she was being faithful. She said, "If you can't handle my privacy, then go." For a moment, I was tempted to pack my bags, but a part of me still hoped I was wrong, that I was just paranoid. So I stayed. Chapter 8, nice underwear for work. Another clue shortly after that phone incident, I noticed she'd bought expensive lingerie sets. Usually, we'd enjoy picking lingerie together for our intimate nights. But these sets, she never wore them for me. I'd only see them in the laundry hamper occasionally. Lacy bras and thongs that smelled of perfume. "Why are you wearing these to work?" I asked, suspicious. She shrugged. "You like feeling sexy under my clothes." "It's not about you. Sure, some women do that for themselves, which I respect, but in the context of everything else. Secret apps, suspicious therapy visits." My alarm bells rang louder. If she was wearing them under normal office attire, that might be normal. But sometimes she'd mention she was meeting an old friend after work. My imagination conjured images of her hooking up with a side fling. I wanted to demand full explanations, but I dreaded her explosive reaction, so I let it fester inside me. Chapter 9, the pivotal moment. Realizing she cheated all along, eventually, I reevaluated the entire timeline, connecting dots, than the steed tests I got out of fear, than her repeated BV diagnoses, possibly from sexual encounters with others, than the dating apps popping up, than the suspicious outfits for therapist sessions, than the refusal to let me see her phone, than the brazen wearing of sexy underwear for unknown reasons. All pointed to a near certainty that she was cheating the entire 2 years. The puzzle pieces aligned. Maybe multiple partners, or a single main side dude. I never found explicit proof. She's great at hiding everything, quickly deleting evidence. But if my gut said it was all too fishy, I had to trust it. At one point, I cornered her, stating plainly, "Believe you've been cheating." I might not have proof, but the red flags are everywhere. Prove me wrong. Show me your phone logs. Show me your therapy receipts. She scoffed. "You don't owe you proof. You're paranoid. If you think I cheat, believe what you want." Then she walked off. That was it. The conversation ended, leaving me with her final statement, "Believe whatever you want." So I decided I'd leave. Because the mental anguish of playing detective, the sense of being gaslit, it was crushing me. I realized no trust or intimacy remained. Even if she told me, "I love you," I couldn't believe her. She acted like she was head over heels, but apparently that was just a front. Her actions said otherwise. Chapter 10, dumping her and moving on 2 weeks later, I found the courage to end it. We were having yet another tense evening, me silent, her scrolling on her phone. I turned off the TV, calmly said, "We are done." She blinked. "What?" I repeated this. "I don't trust you. "You're obviously cheating, or at least not being honest. I refuse to live with suspicion." She exploded, denying everything, calling me insecure, saying I was throwing away a good thing. But I felt certain by then this was no good thing. So I packed a bag and left to crash at a friend's place. I told her she could keep the apartment for the month. I'd find a new spot. She sneered, "Fine, you'll regret this." Yet I only felt relief. By the next day, I realized how heavy that burden had been. Freed from it, I breathed easier, though heartbreak lurked. Because, ironically, I did love her in some twisted way. Or I loved the version of her I believed in. I still never found actual proof, but the signs were too overwhelming to ignore. My final conversation with her was a text exchange. She insisted, "I never cheated, you just made that up in your head." I ended with, "We both know the truth. Good luck." Then I blocked her. In the following days, I told friends and family that we broke up, citing irreconcilable trust issues. Some asked for details. I gave them a condensed version of my suspicions. Most said, "You probably dodged a bullet." Chapter 11, reflecting on the red flags in the weeks after leaving. I replayed every suspicious moment, wishing I had recognized the signs sooner or demanded clarity. Hindsight is cruel. The most glaring warnings won. My gut feeling constant unease, a sense that her words and action didn't match too. Her phone obsession in 2023, privacy is normal, but she was excessively secretive, refusing even the simplest phone checks. 3. Multiple times. Buvok, coupled with suspicious timeline of no unprotected sex with me, possibly from other partners. 4. Dating apps discovered she claimed they were empty. Conveniently everything was deleted, or no messages. 5. Revealing outfits for therapy. Maybe normal for some, but combined with the rest, suspect. 6. Late nights unaccounted for, vague excuses refusing to elaborate. 7. Snatching her phone away when I tried to hold it, a huge red flag about hiding content. 8. Refusal to show me any actual proof of her innocence, flipping blame on me. All these combined painted the picture of a perpetual cheater. She was hot and acted like she loved me, as I'd sum up to friends, but in reality, she led a double life. My biggest lesson: trust your instincts. If your gut is screaming, something's off, you're likely right. Also, don't ignore any red flags. I did, hoping it was just me being paranoid, but in the end, the truth was exactly what I feared. Chapter 12, my emotional fallout after the breakup. I had a roller coaster of emotions. At first, a wave of anger at her deception. Then a period of heartbreak, remembering the sweet moments that now felt like lies. I kept replaying how affectionate she'd be in public, how she'd rest her head on my shoulder at family gatherings, how everyone said we looked like the perfect couple. I realized it was mostly an act. She was cheating even then. I also faced humiliation, worried about STIDs. But I tested clean, thank God. The relief was enormous. If I had contracted something from her side flings, that would have added insult to injury. My friend group was supportive, telling me, better now than after marriage or kids. True, but it still stung. Some nights I missed the physical closeness, but I reminded myself it was a false closeness. Therapy helped me process the betrayal. The counselor told me I had betrayal trauma, especially because I'd suspected for so long, letting it chip away at my self-esteem. She explained how some people are adept liars, making their partner question their own sanity. That rung true. Over time, therapy guided me to rebuild confidence, to realize I wasn't at fault for her cheating. She made those choices. My only fault was ignoring red flags. Chapter 13, finding closure in telling my story. Oddly enough, I found closure by sharing my story. At first, I was embarrassed. But eventually, I posted a short version on social media, minus identifying details. The responses poured in from people who experienced similar gut feeling but no proof scenarios. Many confirmed that cheaters can hide everything well, but the signs leak out: suspicious phone behavior, random unprotected sex issues, clothing changes. It validated me. I wasn't alone or crazy. I typed up a concise list of red flags from my experience, warning others to trust their instincts. People thanked me, saying it helped them realize their own partners might be deceiving them. A few months ago, I'd have never guessed I'd be an expert on cheating red flags, but life is funny like that. I found purpose in turning my heartbreak into a cautionary tale for others. In a final burst of reflection, I wrote a letter to my ex, not to send but to exercise lingering emotions. I told her I no longer hated her, I pitied her. Because living a life of secrecy, hooking up with random men while faking love must be empty. I hoped she'd find her path, but away from me. Then I burned the letter. Symbolic or melodramatic, maybe, but it felt freeing. Chapter 14, my new beginning. 6 months post-breakup, I moved to a new apartment, decorated it in a style that reflected my taste. Clean lines, minimal clutter. No memory of her. I started working out more, joined a local sports club. The self-doubt that once plagued me receded. I even went on a few dates, though carefully, not wanting to jump into a relationship quickly. I told each prospective partner that honesty was paramount for me. The ghost of Avery still lingered sometimes, like when I'd pass a restaurant we used to frequent, or catch a whiff of perfume reminiscent of hers. A pang would strike my chest. But the difference now was acceptance. I recognized that I loved an illusion. The real Avery was someone else entirely. Friends say she's possibly dating someone new or multiple people. I don't track her life. I blocked her on social media after she left some snarky comments on a mutual friend's post. I can't muster anger anymore. I just feel pity. She's free to do as she pleases. I am free from the toxicity. Chapter 15, Lessons Learned. If your gut feels weird, it's right. Standing here, reflecting on 2 years of a tumultuous romance, I see the biggest lesson: never ignore your instincts. I brushed off every sign. Her phone secrecy, her odd nights out, her hooking up with someone. I let fear of confrontation overshadow my sense of truth. The dating app Fasco alone should have spurred me to leave. But I clung to the illusion that she truly loved me. In reality, she was hot and acted like she really loved me, but cheated the entire time. Now, I share this cautionary tale with whoever might need it. If something feels off, investigate. Don't let them gaslight you. If you see repeated signs, like suspicious phone behavior, strangely timed doctor visits, random lingerie for work, take them seriously. A skillful cheater can mask evidence, but you can't hide consistent red flags. I thank my lucky stars I ended it before deeper entanglements, like marriage or children. Ultimately, she never confessed, never admitted any wrongdoing. She ended with, "Believe whatever you want." But the moral is clear: when your gut signals trouble, it's likely trouble. Don't let a manipulative partner keep you in the dark. Cheating can lurk behind even the hottest, seemingly loving partner if you see blatant red flags. As for me, I'm grateful I escaped unscathed health-wise and financially. Emotionally, it was a roller coaster, but I emerged stronger and wiser. Now, I move forward, open to real love, untainted by lies. My next relationship? I'll demand transparency, I'll trust my instincts, and never again let red flags slide. Because life's too short to waste on illusions, and that's the biggest gift I gained from losing her. The ability to love myself enough to walk away from anyone who disrespects me, no matter how hot or seemingly devoted they appear.